Mother-in-law is trying to set rules in our house. Recently we have decided that because we live remotely and there is no childcare facilities available here, that we will need to hire a live-in nanny to look after our 3-year-old son. My dear husband came up with the idea that maybe we could get his parents to come over and live in our granny flat, and take care of our son. At first I was very resistant with the idea, but my dear husband really wanted to make it work and he has no family here where we live. This is my hometown. So I agreed. We just had a visit with my in-laws and we sat down to discuss how it would all work. Before anyone had a chance to say anything, my mother-in-law immediately says, "Well, if you want us to move in and look after son, there's going to need to be a few changes in the house." They're cranky, bordering on shaking rage that we decided to get a puppy recently. Apparently it was irresponsible of us, and irresponsible of the breeder to sell us a puppy when we had a 3-year-old son. Not happy. There is too much chaos in the house. Too much noise and not enough stability. They will need calm and quiet. The house will need to be a lot cleaner. My dear husband and I both work, however our house is far from untidy. Mother-in-law's house is like a museum and so her expectations are incredibly high. They think their son does too much and I don't do enough. This one was a big one for me. I waited for her to speak, and then calmly explained to them that the man they see when they come to visit is not the same man who lays around on the couch watching footy when they're not visiting. And that because we live remotely, I have to sit down and sort out a lot of things on the computer: banking, household shopping, paying bills, arranging swaps with other parents on the days we need childcare, organizing flights and doctor's appointments when we go to the mainland. The list goes on, and so I tried to explain that to her. Her response was to put her hand up in my face and then turn to my dear husband and say, "It's very hard to have a conversation with someone who is so defensive. I'm sorry, but if I felt like as though the way we run our family is being unfairly judged by someone who has no right to have such strong opinions, I will absolutely defend myself." And I was being polite about it. The last thing they told us that absolutely tipped me over the edge, was that my father-in-law actually approached one of our great friends, and my cousin, to ask him to watch us and to let my father-in-law know if he felt our son was not being treated properly. He apparently was very concerned about our son being reprimanded for being too rough with the puppy. Both our son and our puppy received the same amount of discipline to ensure they both learned how to get along with each other, and it has worked wonderfully. They are now the best of friends. Am I overreacting that I'm so pissed off about this? I am so angry that they feel as though their opinion counts for so much that they would expect us to completely change how we are in our household, and that they went behind our backs to get my family to check up on us for them. I am livid. Needless to say, they're not coming to look after our son. It sounds like a really great time to sit down with your husband and have some tough conversations about why he doesn't support you. To sit there as she tries to dictate shit and then weakly say, "Oh, she does stuff," when she puts her hand in your face. Your husband needs to grow a spine. He does struggle with standing up to them, and we've had many discussions about it. He's a lot better than he used to be, he just doesn't want to upset, or worse, disappoint them, and I struggle with that face with rolling eyes, but he's definitely a lot better, so I know he's trying. I learned long ago that having good grandparents involved in my children's lives was important. Not any, all grandparents, good ones. My kids don't even think of my hubby's parents as their grandparents. His parents don't want to be in our lives and openly showed it. So we cut them out and our kids were better off for it. Hubby was SG and his sister was GC, so her kid, the first one born, was the only one that mattered. Cut them out of your lives. As you live far away, you don't have to do nearly as much. Just don't contact them, don't answer all of their calls and don't do anything for them. Eventually contact will just naturally dribble off. You are a really great parent to do this. My in-laws were not good grandparents, so we didn't do much to cultivate that relationship. If they had been good grandparents it would have been different. It really is great, and sweet, to put your child above yourself in this way. I would say you underreacted. I would have quite literally shivved them out the door with a good fury and told them never to return. But I tend to be very blunt. I sure hope dear husband defended you when you told mother-in-law you did your share of the work. No way in hell should they live either on your property, or close by. They will be a nightmare, and you will definitely start to resent your husband for being his mother's son, instead of your husband. He's firmly wedged in the fog. There is nothing wrong with setting boundaries. They got to live their lives their way, now it's your turn to live your lives your way. I do wonder if their in-laws did it to them. In short, it wasn't okay, so why is it okay for them to do it to you? Outofthefog.net is somewhere you should browse. Also, Emotional Blackmail and Toxic Parents are often recommended as a great book, even for people with not toxic, but slightly annoying family members. I would be furious. I sure hope your dear husband was. After this revelation of their true feelings, I would spare them further outrage by dropping the rope entirely. If dear husband wants a relationship with them, that's his choice. But you and your son are not obligated to have any contact with them. I'm sorry, but cut me off and put a hand in my face. I'll correct that real quick in my own home. I wouldn't scream at her, but I would be very stern with, do not cut me off and put your hand in my face when I'm being polite in my own house. Glad they're not moving in. You are not overreacting. They need to realize that their son is a grown-ass adult that doesn't need to be parented upon any longer. Also, you govern your territory the way you see fit. Jeebus, do not let those people even visit for longer than an overnight. Forget moving in. I'm so glad you saw the writing on the wall there. Truly, I would start to limit contact as much as possible. They are clearly not able to stay in their lane. I wouldn't be able to put up with expressing my feelings on a situation and having my mother-in-law put her hand in my face to stop me from talking and turn to my husband and completely disregard the fact I was there. The first time someone did that to me, they'd be pulling back a bloody stump. If I was in that situation the minute she put her hand in my face, it would be very hard not to rip her hand off. I'm not a violent person, but that shit is so disrespectful. The fact that she is going behind your back and talking to your family about neglecting your child is in itself is outrageous. My family would shut her ass down. I am glad your dear husband supports your decision.